welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca, and here in my little corner of the web I like to make budgeting videos and talk about my life, and today I'm sharing my January 2022, I almost said 2021, budget wrap up. So forgive me, this is a little late, but we spent the first week of February on a vacation, so we were just kind of a week behind on everything, and I am just now able to sit down and film this. So I am once again filming in my new style. I hope you enjoy it, but I'll link up above to my January budget with me, but I had tried making a specific spreadsheet for YouTube with the same information that I use, but it was just formatted in a way that made it easier to use on the screen, and it's just too much work. So I decided if I want to keep doing it, which I love making these videos and sharing them with you, I need to make it as easy for me as possible. So I just need to do it exactly how I do it in real life. So this is my January budget, and let's go over it. So we had a lot more income come in than we planned. We always plan for less than we hope to make, specifically for my husband. If you're new to my channel, I work part-time for a nonprofit, but then I also have recently started, it's been 6 months or 8 months now, I guess, since I started my event planning business. And my husband is a music teacher and is a draftsman, and those are both kind of self-employed gig type jobs, so he gets paid the more projects he has. So I always plan for kind of what we need him to make minimum, but hope that he'll make a lot more. So in January we had a great month. I took home, so I don't share his income for his privacy because he doesn't have to be on the internet, but I do share what I'm making from my business. So I am taking home, or in January I took home $442. So I know it's not very much, and I still have a long way to go before it's like a sustainable source of income for us, but it is a really great side income right now. I do feel like I'm working a lot more than I'm getting paid. Like, I do not want to even do the math on that because it would make me really depressed on like the hourly rate, but I'm putting in the work and I am hoping to reap the rewards later. So we expected to make $5,142, and we actually brought in $6,265, so over $1,000 extra. And then this black box down here, like I said before, is what I use to calculate my husband's taxes. So he gets paid, and then we take our taxes out and hold them in a separate savings account, and then pay them quarterly and, at the end of the year. And that's just tracking that for him. And then our giving category is the first thing in our budget, and I decided to block this out just for privacy, but still show the amount, but not show kind of like the sources, or like where it's all going exactly. But we give to our church, and then we also give to several other ministries that we believe in and that we love supporting. So this month we gave $798.16. And then sometimes we have other giving opportunities. So that was like what happened this month. Like, there was just a chance to give more that wasn't really like a tithe. But we still, it's still in this giving category. So then the next category in our budget is our bills, and that's pretty standard. So our mortgage is always $1,200. We live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000-square-foot house in the North DFW area. And then our phone bill. So this one has jumped drastically, kind of in the last 3 or 4 months. We used to just pay for my phone bill, and it was $44. And then I got an Apple Watch, and I added like this cellular plan to it, so that added $10 a month. And then we should have done this a long time ago, but we just started paying for Jared's phone. He was on his family plan for way longer than he should have been, so we just took over paying for that. So that's about $50. I think it's $57 or $59, something like that. So that's $116, and then our Wi-Fi is always $71.15. Electricity, I think we already knew this amount when I made the budget, so it's $104.14. Water, sewer, trash was $115.66, which is actually really high for us. It's not usually over $100, and I don't know what that was about. I think there were maybe a couple of times when we had to drip the faucets all night. Because it was cold, like for freezing. I don't know if that would have been enough to make it that much higher. I don't know. That's just how much it was. And then natural gas. So we use gas to heat our home. So in the colder months, it's a lot higher. It was $126.41 this month. But what's interesting is that the next bill, I've already got it, is like $35, and I have no idea because it's been like kind of the same temperature, and we've been keeping the house at the same temperature. So I don't know why it's so drastically different each month. Like, it makes no sense to me. But and then car insurance. Our car insurance is with Geico, and it's $152.91 for 2 cars. I have a 2010, yes, 2010 Toyota Prius, and Jared has a 2003 Mercedes C320. So older cars, definitely. So then Jared's health insurance is $160.37. Mine is through my mom's work, covered until I'm 26. And then we have life insurance policies for each of us, so that comes out to $59.13. And then my gym membership is $21.60. So those are all of our regular bills. They don't change very much. And this month it was $21.27.44. So then we move over to variable expenses. This is where I always shudder a little bit because we always go over, but not too bad this month. So groceries, our budget was $450, and we spent $459.92. I was actually really impressed that we were able to stay within this, because in January we started doing Every Plate, which is like a meal kit delivery service, and it's actually owned by HelloFresh, and we were doing HelloFresh intermittently in the summer of 2020, but it was so expensive. So this one is a lot cheaper, and they always start you off with a promo, so I was like, okay, let's do that in January. So we only did it, I think we did it every other week, because I was like, I can't really justify the cost. I think it ends up being, let me see, it was $45 for 3 meals, so I think it ends up being like $7 per person per meal, and if we spent that much on every single meal that we made, it was like we would spend $1,000 a month on groceries. So it's definitely still a luxury, but it is a time saver now that I'm working a lot more. For reference, I was working full time, and then this summer when we paid off all our debt, I was able to quit one of my jobs, and so then I was down to part-time, and that gave me, I was working on my business, but I wasn't, I didn't really have very many clients, a lot going on, so I had a lot of free time, so I was, doing a lot of meal planning, a lot of prepping, and now that I'm back to kind of almost a full-time schedule again, and not getting paid as much, it's just really hard, but I am trying to reduce some stress causers in my life. So I do think it's worth it. This doesn't reflect like the full cost of it, but I think seeing as it's much more affordable than HelloFresh, like almost like, it was like 30% cheaper, that's a pretty big amount, I am all for it. So anyway, then eating out, we went over in this category. We spent $213.35, which, what's new? We always do. And I always get so discouraged with this category specifically, because I see so many people, on YouTube and on the internet who do really, really well in this category and spend so little on eating out that it just makes me feel like we're a failure. And then I go out into, other places where people aren't so frugal and budget-minded, and I see kind of the complete opposite, where people are spending way, way more on eating out. And so I have to remind myself that, like, reality is not the bubble that I see on YouTube a lot of times, and that maybe me sharing this real number of just what happens in our life is helpful to some other people who also aren't able to keep it, under $100 a month for eating out. So that's just real life. And then gas. Our budget, this one is kind of like, if you go over budget, I mean, what are you going to do? It's not like we're going to not fill up, but our budget's $100, we spent $126.43, but actually this one was kind of a bummer to me, because we were under, right until, I think it was like, we left on the 30th of January for our trip, and Jared, I think the day before, filled up gas and like brought us over budget, and I was like, no, you could have made it February's problem, like, but I mean, we're going to spend the money no matter what, so might as well spend it then. And then into Jared's allowance, he only spent $40, which is, I'm kind of thinking I need to make these sinking funds, because already, we're in February now, and he's not a big spender, so he doesn't usually go over his $100 allowance every month, but this month he got some new pants and a new piece of equipment for music, and now he's at $154, and I'm like, ooh, that's definitely over budget, but, you don't spend out over budget a lot, so I should really be saving the money so that it's not like taking a hit the next month. But I keep not doing it. And then I spent $124.81, and I would have been good except for right before our trip I got a haircut. And usually my haircuts are really expensive, but I actually had a friend who's a hairdresser who cut it for me, and because she cut it in her own home, she wasn't paying the overhead salon fees, and so it was a lot more affordable than my haircuts usually are, which is why I only get it cut twice a year, but that's what brought it over. And then Shoestring Flings, this is my business, and I don't really spend any more personal money out of here. I was for a while when I'm still getting it up, but now I structure it in a way to where I save 10% of all that I make through that, so that I can use that money for purchases. So, which is also why I am taking home less, because that's not, what I'm taking home isn't quite indicative of what the business is making, but it's not very much, but it's a little bit more than what I'm taking home. But I just don't want to have to take those costs out of our personal budget. And that's, good business advice. That's how you should spend with business. I'm not an advisor, but that's just what you're supposed to do. Anyway, then for subscriptions, we spent $58.80. Just our regular things, like we have Apple Music, and then we have Apple Care on all of our products. So because I am so clumsy, I'm not going to not pay that $4 a month and then lose a $400 device. And then miscellaneous, we spent $67.07, and then house, we spent $131.89, and I cannot remember what we bought here, but there was something specific that we needed that brought it over, because usually, we don't spend, I'll have to remember, I'm not quite sure, but we were under in quite a few categories, so we ended up only going over in our variable expenses by $82.34, so not too shabby. And then for our sinking funds, so how I do this is I keep it all in one bank account, and I track the amount on this spreadsheet. So for our home maintenance sinking fund, we started the month with $475.61. We added we planned to add $125. I actually added $100 because I was doing some moving from home maintenance to reno, which I'll talk about in a second. And then we spent $64.13. I think we had some people stay in our house as an Airbnb while we were on our trip, which is one of the reasons that we took our trip. We went to Roatan, Honduras, and I will talk more about that later. But we had to do some things to get our house ready for that, or that we wanted to do, just to make it a little bit nicer. I think we had to get some new batteries, and then, we had to put locks. We had to put locks on some cabinets and some doors, so that was a cost, and then maybe there was one other thing, but I can't remember it. So we ended the month with $511.48. Then for renovations, so we had $27.11 in here. Then we had planned to add $30, and this was because I wasn't planning on doing any renovations. But if you've seen my 2022 goals for the year, you know that one of our goals is to add a studio apartment in our backyard. And one of the reasons that we want to do that is to get some passive, because it's not quite passive, but income through Airbnb. And this was kind of like a back burner goal, but it was just reinvigorated by having people, we've only opened our house twice for Airbnb, once when we were visiting family for Christmas, and then while we had planned to take our trip, and both times have been booked up. So it kind of made me think, we were is this going to be very popular? Do we have a good place where people want to use an Airbnb? Our city, is it desirable? And because it booked up both times and it was super easy to do, we were you know what, let's make this a priority, because we also were able to use that money to offset the cost of our trip. And since travel is one of our biggest priorities and joys that we take in life, we want to be able to make that as easy and affordable as possible. So we are making that more of a priority, trying to get that goal funded by the end of the year. So it wasn't a huge difference, but I just moved $25 from home maintenance to reno, and that's what I'm going to put all of that money in the reno category. So then we spent $52. Again, this was stuff for the Airbnb. I think we had to fix something, or I don't remember. But so we ended with $30. So, not very much of a change, but now that we have that as a goal, it's kind of changed how I'm planning as far as once we fund our travel goals. So then, travel, we started the month with $697.94. We planned to add $600, and this is where all of our extra dollars are going. So when we made extra money, we were able to add instead $993.87. And we were able, I should rephrase that, because we also were able, with the extra money, just to put more money overall in the sinking fund. So if you watched my January video, the numbers that I said in there were different, and that's because I think when I did that budget, I had not planned on, there was a point in which we weren't going to take a trip, but when we were going to take our trip the first time, it's a long story, I'll explain in a different video, I knew that we weren't going to have a whole lot of income in February because we'd be gone and my husband wouldn't be working. So I took the money that we usually save for our monthly sinking funds, and I split it between January, March, and April, and put that higher amount in, those months, but then I took it out and then I put it back in. So that's what happened, and that's how the money gets split evenly. But anyway, so we were able to put $993, and we only spent $101.33, and this is on like a pre-trip grocery run that I did to get like snacks for the trip and sunscreen and just all of that stuff, and then also like other stuff that we needed just for the house, which was really expensive. It's expensive to travel, no way around it. But I did not put any of our trip costs in the budget because it's all going to go in February, so that I can kind of track it better to have an accurate representation of like, okay, this is how much we spent on this vacation, so that when we go on our next vacation, we can know and plan realistically, if that makes sense. So we ended up going to Roatan, Honduras. It was super fun. We spent around $1,000, and I think I'm going to do a separate video on that, and I also took some footage while we were there, so I'm excited to share that too. So we ended with $1,590.48, and this money that we're putting into our travel fund right now is going towards a trip that we have planned for this summer. We are spending 2 months in Europe, and I know that I owe everyone a video on how we're doing that and some details about that, because I've had some questions, how's that possible? And I will get to it. I'm really overwhelmed with work right now, and it's just like, YouTube is just not, it hasn't been a priority, and that's just honestly how it is. And but I will get around to it at some point, I promise. And then gifts. So we started the month with $516. We have been pretty wiped out from Christmas, and then we added $125, what we planned to add, and we spent $42.94. So it was my sister's birthday, one of my sister's birthdays this month. She turned 30, very exciting. So that's for that gift. And so we ended with $87.22. And then Christmas, once again, it had been pretty wiped out from December, so we planned to add 60, we did add 60, and we didn't spend anything. And then health, we started the month with $497.56. We planned to add 125, and we did. And then we spent $87.03. Jared had to go to the doctor for something, and his health insurance doesn't cover anything, basically. It's the worst. So, yeah, that's the cost we had for that. So we ended with $535.53. And then auto, we started with $59.08. We had some really big costs at the end of last year for auto, and both of our registrations were due, so it was pretty depleted, which is kind of a bummer. But we added 125, and then we spent 20. I think this is on tolls, and I know that really that shouldn't be part of like the auto, because it's supposed to be for auto repairs, but that's just the easiest place for it to go, because I just don't know where else to put it, because it's not gas. And anyway, that's just what I do for my personal stuff. So that's what we spent on tolls, and then we ended with $164.08. We don't really go to a lot of toll roads, so it's just an every once in a while expense. So total sinking funds, we started with $1,764 and added $1,583, and then we're ended with $29.81. So that's the amount in our bank account right now. And then moving down, so our savings items, these are more like long-term savings items, and I should probably put the studio down here, but then we'd have to open up a new bank account, and we don't have one, so I'm keeping it with sinking funds for now. So our emergency fund is fully funded right now, like at this step of where we want to be. We have $10,000.02. We also keep $3,500 in our checking account buffer, which is the next line item, and this amount is split between two accounts. We have two different banks that we use for different reasons, and just because it's felt like lately that amount doesn't go as far when it's stretched between two accounts, I've been wanting to add more, so we added $100 to the buffer this month. And just because sometimes I track all of our expenses very meticulously, but sometimes it feels like there's not as much in the buffer as there should be, so I just am trying to make a conscious point to always be making sure we've got as much as we say we have in there. And then our investments. So this is one of our goals. We're not, doing super well at this as far as like, are we investing enough for retirement? No, probably not. But we started with 86, 54, 55, and then these numbers are kind of irrelevant because the market's always changing. Like, it doesn't matter exactly, like how much is exactly what we put in and what's in the account, because it's always changing a little bit. But we planned for 420, and we added 434. And this is kind of like, I can't remember what the math I did, but I follow several accounts, and I think the one that I saw this sheet from is called The Money Guys, and it was showing how much you need to put in per month based on what age you are to reach $1 million per person at 65. And so that's a number that we're trying to hit right now, which is actually less than like 15% of our income, which is kind of surprising because, I don't know, it's all relative based on how much you make. but that's how much we're trying to put in, and we didn't quite hit it. I think the number is actually like 530, but we're working towards that. So we ended with actual market value of $8,961.61 at the end of the month. So I think that's we ended with less than we started, basically, because we should have been at more. So that's what I say. I'm not looking at it month to month because we're in it for the long term. But so last year I made this little breakdown that shows where our money is going to kind of help us know like how we're spending. And so about half of it, a little over half, is going to bills and expenses, and then 30% towards savings, long-term and short-term, and then 13.6% towards giving. So that was our month of January, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what else you want to see from me, and if you have any fun plans for February with your budget. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a great week. Bye.
I don't wanna stay here